Let me show you how to send out email to contact owners when a criteria is being met according to your own use case. For this video, I'll be making use of the list status. So when the list status is open, we are going to be automating an email via the workflow. First, we are going to go to workflow and then create a workflow from the scratch. Head over to the automation icon and then click on workflows, and we are going to select create workflow, and we are going to be creating from the scratch. As we all know, the use case is when the lead status of a contact is open. So here we have selected the option of when the filter criteria has been met. The filter criteria is the lead status being open. So assuming this contact lead status is open, is going to meet the enrollment criteria of the workflow. So I'm going to be using the condition of is any of. It can be multiple values, but in this case, I'm using just one value, which is open. So when the lead status of any record is open, it qualifies the record to enroll in this workflow. I'm clicking on next and I'm going to select re-enroll. This allows this contact to automatically re-enroll when the contact has been re-updated again, should there be any case scenario of that. And next, I'm going to be using my delay option. I use the delay option and I will just delay it for just 1 minute. I will have to make another detailed video why I always use this delay option. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to tell you that I'm using this delay. Should there be any glitch in your network or a lag in the network of any user, it wouldn't affect the output of this workflow. So here I'm going to select for a set amount of time, and I'm going to be delaying the workflow for just 1 minute before we select the other action that will take place in this workflow. The other action that is going to take place in this workflow is the email sending. So we are going to click on the plus button, which populates this interface, and then we click on communication and we select send internal email notification. This internal email notifications means this email notification is going out to users of this Hubspot account. So any user, the user I'm selecting here is the owner of the contact, which is the value in the field of contact owner. So next is to create a subject. As you can see the asterisk here, it means that it is a required field. So a subject must be populated. The subject I'm using is just update a note on the latest conversation. Now, remember our use case. When the lead status is open, this contact is going to be delayed for 1 minute, even when he has enrolled in this workflow. And then an email will be sent out to the contact owner. Now, the body of the mail, I'm just going to type a simple message here, but I'll be making use of personalization tokens. Here is called data tokens, but personalization tokens are field values that help you to personalize the content of your email or content of your message, whatever you call it. So I'm going to be saying hi, the contact owner, which is the field that holds the name of the user that owns this contact or manages this contact. Please follow up on this contact, or please update this contact. Is going to be the simple message here. I'm still going to use personalization token to mention the name of the contact. Feel free to go ahead to add any personalization token, like maybe the activity date, the last activity date and time of this record, the time a note was created, any field you want to appear, any personalization field you want to appear in this message. It can be carried over from the contact record, so long as it's existing and there is a value in there, onto this body of the email. So here I'm just selecting the first name of the person and the last name, so that the user or the owner who is going to receive the email would know, without even going into Hubspot, the name of the contact they are talking about, regardless of the fact that there will be a link from the email that will lead the owner directly into the contact record in Hubspot. So here we have it. We have saved it. And then after the email send, what do we want to do next? We want to check if a note has been created. As I mentioned earlier, the manager has always said, create a note once the list status is updated to open. So here I'm going to be selecting the branch which serves as a decision element to check if a note has been created. And when a note has been created, what does it do? The workflow ends there. But in the case where the note has not been created, it goes ahead. The workflow will keep running until you get to the very end or the last action we want to implement in this workflow. Now I'm going to give this branch name note created, and from the object I'm going to select note. So this selection of note shows you on top that this note is the associated object, and any note here will be the note that is associated to the record. I can use any of the field values here which will indicate that there is an existence of a note. So I'm using create date because when the create date has a value inside, it means that the note is existing. So the condition here is known. So when the create date is known, that means there is a note. The workflow should end. Am I going to add another branch? No, I'm going to just use the default branch of none is met. So when none is met, it means no note has been created on this contact record after the list status has been updated. So when this happens, what do we want to do? We want to create a task for the owner of the contact so that it will be a reminder for the owner to create a note. We're going to go back to the CRM menu and then select the option of creating a task. This will help to create this task automatically. Now, when we select create task, we give it the title we want. It can be follow up, and the data tokens are appearing should we want to use data tokens to personalize this task. So here, I'm giving it the title of follow-up with conversation or follow-up conversation. You can name yours anything you want to name it, but make sure you tailor it to the business process, something that is user-friendly. And then for the date that is going to be created, I want it to be created immediately. This has been triggered. I do not want an email reminder, so I'm just going to write the note that the task will carry. Then I can write the notes using any personalization token just to make it more detailed according to whatever my use case is. And then I will follow the prompt that comes after this. Nothing really comes after this note. You can just say thank you and put your signature at the end as the manager or as the admin that have created this. And that would be all for the note. So it can add any other association. So I'm assuming the contact has a company record or a lead or a deal record. You can also associate the note with it. And then I'm going to make the priority to be medium, depending on what your use case is. And then I'm going to be assigning the task to the existing owner of the contact. So we now have two parts in this workflow. The first is that every record that the lead status is open will automatically enroll in this workflow and an email will be sent out to the owner of the contact. And the second part is where we'll be checking if a note was created as instructed or not. So before testing, we are going to be naming this workflow before we turn it on. But before turning on the workflow, I like to create sample records and use them to do both positive and negative testing. Positive and negative testing means if this workflow fails to work, what is it triggering in the org? What is it automating? So we are safely going to be doing two testing using the first record. I'm going to update the first contact list status to open so that it will be the positive test of the flow. The positive test means it's going to follow and automatically enroll in this workflow. Here I've tested it, and when you see all these green check boxes that has been ticked, it means the record I use has met every criteria of this workflow, and the workflow has run from the beginning to the last action. We are going to check the part that this followed. This is supposed to follow the part where the note hasn't been created because there is no existing note on this record, but the lead status has been updated. Therefore, it's supposed to send out an email. You can check for the preview while testing and see a sample of what your users are going to be getting, and then we are going to see the task that has been created. So as I've done for the first one, the X here shows that the note hasn't been created, which means it followed the second part where the note has not been created, and that is how the workflow ends. So if you want to do the second testing with the other record where the list status is not open, we are not expecting this record to enroll in this workflow. So I'm going to change the enrollment record that I'm using for test to the second record. So when I choose this record for testing, you see what happens is that it did not meet the enrollment criteria. If you go further into the details, you find out that the list status is not open. Now, after doing this, you see that your workflow is working. There are no errors. You don't need to debug anything anymore. We are going to turn our workflow. So we just click on review, and then if you want existing contacts who has met this criteria prior to when this workflow was being created to be enrolled, you can click yes. But if you want it to be to be contacts that has met this criteria, you will say, after the workflow has been turned on, you will select no and then turn it on. So right now, 3 contacts have been enrolled automatically into this workflow. When I check my email, I'm going to see the emails from all these records that has met the filter criteria and has automatically enrolled before immediately as I'm turning the workflow on. But here, I'm going to be creating a note on the second record we are using for testing before I will update the list status. So when I'm updating after I've created this note, it appears here under the note activities, and then I will update the list status to open, which will trigger the enrollment of this record. When we have triggered this record to enrolling in the workflow, I'm going to be checking my mail to see what happens at the end. Voila, I've received an update note for confirmation, and this is for the record, the first record which automatically got enrolled. So when you scroll down, you see that this was sent from an automation, and there's a link that will directly lead you to this contact inside Hubspot. This is it. This is the note that has been, there's no note on this particular record which triggered it to follow the first or the second path. And then it has created a task for the owner of the record to be reminded to create a note. Then I'll go back and check for the second mail, which is for the second record that I just updated. Voila, look at my mail. It has come again. These are for the 3 records, and then the last one is for this last record that just got updated to open. When you check, you are going to see that the name is still. Let's go back to Hubspot and check our enrollment history. This enrollment history shows you how the record and the log of the record was run. So this is in real time. We are going to view the log of one of the records and check what made it to meet the enrollment criteria, how long it was delayed, which action it was enrolled into. We can see that every action that we have built on this workflow, the record was enrolled in each of these actions, which is why we got a mail, and at a point, no note was created. And for the second one, we got the mail, and then a task was created because of the conditions we have given this workflow to run on. This is simply how to build a simple workflow in Hubspot, automate email sending, and make work seamless for you. Please follow, like, share, subscribe for more informative videos like this.